afternoon, everybody, on this beautiful day. As you are welcome here. Visitor, friend, or longtime member, you are welcome here. With little children, or your partner, or alone, we joyfully welcome you here. You are welcome here as believer or doubter, as joiner or loner. You are welcome here. Feeling a part of us or not, full of energy or not, seeking a vision or a rest, you are welcome to join us as you are. We acknowledge that we are in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish, Nez Perce, Blackfeet, and Anishinaabe people who share the Helena Valley as hunting grounds. The indigenous story of the Helena Valley began long before the arrival of Europeans. We honor those who walked here before us. We honor the path they have shown us in caring for this place for generations to come. We strive for justice and fair relationships with their descendants. Okay. And would you like to light the chalice, Tanya? And let's all say together, may the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not harm, to help and not hinder, to bless and not curse, to serve you, Spirit of Freedom. And our opening song is Welcome to the Circle, page 2 in the Open Your Heart songbook. Please stand as you're willing and able. he's so beautiful. So the first reading is a reading I found in our book, our Unity book, and I really loved it. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who age after age, perversely with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. And now it's time for our offering. Thank you for your gifts this day and for all the gifts of action that make this community possible. If you are visiting, please remain our guest. Your presence is your gift to us. Today, we're taking up a collection for a hands-on global project. We have met a community group in Zhytomyr Oblast, Ukraine, whose ambulance driver the ambulance and the driver in it were hit by a missile and he was killed. And the community is trying to buy another ambulance, and they're $1,800 short. So whatever we have today, we will give to them for their ambulance driver. And Taylor and Anna, Amir, would you like to do the offering? And our song is, there you go. Thank you for your loving hands, page 25 in our songbook, when you're ready.
There. It's all operator error. So today, Valerie's going to talk about her experiences in the Ukraine, and she gives medical aid there, helps people out who are sick. Can you see the little green country up there?
Yes.
That's where the Ukraine is. And the big red country, much of it anyway, is Russia. And so Russia wants Ukraine, and that's the source of the problem. But the national flag of the Ukraine, you've probably seen these flags around town. They're blue and yellow. The blue is for the sky, and the yellow is for wheat. Ukraine is known as the breadbasket of Europe. And they grow so much grain, so much wheat, that much of the world depends on them. Okay? They are a proud and unified people. So I thought I would share some of their traditions and their holiday practices with you. Getting treats for Christmas. I bet nobody likes that. You like treats for Christmas, right? And if you look at those, a lot of those are made out of wheat. I don't know what someone with that celiac disease would do in the Ukraine. It would be hard. It's a disease where you can't eat wheat. Anyway, so Christmas in Ukraine is a family holiday. When all the relatives gather together, they set a festive table with 12 traditional dishes. That's a lot of food. They sing Christmas songs. They remember all the good things that happened over the past year and wish each other health and happiness. During the Christmas holidays, the tradition of caroling is also done. Children go from house to house. They sing Christmas songs and wish their hosts all the best. The most important part is seeding the floor with grains of wheat and barley. And that's supposed to bring prosperity and happiness. So they put their grain on the floor. Hosts in turn have to give money, sweets, or other treats to the carolers. What's that like? Kind of like Halloween a little bit? Where you go to somebody's house? This is a different one. Eating a piece of paper as the chimes strike 12. So it's unusual. You put a piece of burnt paper in a glass of champagne and drink it on New Year's Eve, on the New Year's. It is believed that if you write that wish on a piece of paper, burn the edges, put it in the glass, and then swallow it, your wish will definitely come true. I know. The trickiest part is that you have to do it while the chimes are striking 12. That only gives you 1 minute to do it. They like New Year's so much, they celebrate it twice, 2 times. On the night of January 13th, Ukraine celebrates an Old New Year. Despite the fact that this holiday is not an official one, the people celebrate it anyway. A long time ago, people followed the Julian calendar, which was 13 days behind a European calendar. And so to reduce this gap, the transition to the Gregorian calendar was carried out in 1918. So then January 14th turned out to be the date of the Old New Year. Another one. They like to plunge into an ice hole. And they do this on January 19th. It's a national tradition in Ukraine. However, the Epiphany frosts are considered the coldest. So people believe that it's impossible to get sick, to get ill. On the contrary, the waters become holy or sacred. So if you spot Ukrainians screaming but swimming in icy water, you shouldn't be surprised. This is one you might like. Make pancakes every day for a week. It's a custom. I'm probably not pronouncing this right. Miss Lenitsa week. The holiday has existed for a long time. And the pancake is a symbol of the sun. They really like their sun and grains, don't they? It's yellow, round, and hot. Therefore, it meant seeing off the winter and greeting spring, which hopefully we're doing now. Celebrated the last week before Easter, this feast is a cheerful event, and people serve freshly made pancakes every day, go visit each other, sled, ski, and enjoy life. That sounds pretty good. Now this is a famous Easter tradition, painting the eggs. And I think since I've murdered the last word, I'm just going to skip the Ukrainian words. So they celebrate coloring hard-boiled eggs like we do, and also other kinds of eggs. And you can see how detailed they are and beautiful. I think you wouldn't want it on a hard-boiled egg. It would go bad after a while. So they have very deep symbolic meanings, and every detail of the pattern means something to the Ukrainians. For example, the red color symbolizes good and the joy of living. Yellow is for warmth and crops, while green means hope. Ukrainians have been observing this tradition for centuries and gladly continue to put heart and soul into this activity. Having a picnic at a grave. Does this sound like anybody else's tradition? Does anybody know? Japanese do that? Oh. In Mexico, yes, with the Day of the Dead. So this is done in other cultures. But in Ukraine, it follows Easter on the 9th day after the holiday. The tradition has pre-Christian roots and is closely related to honoring your ancestors. The ancient Slavs came to the graves of their deceased relatives because they believed the dead rejoiced in hearing memories of them. Nowadays, people go to relatives' gravesite, put some food on the grave, have a snack, and share with their dead relatives. So do you see the blouses the ladies are wearing? That's embroidery. That someone does that with needle and thread, all that decorating. So that's a Ukrainian tradition, and it's a trendy piece of everyday life as well. People like to wear it all the time. The color, length, shape, different designs, they're so popular, they're popular around the world. But locals never miss an opportunity to show off their lovely embroidery. Today, the Ukrainian people are fighting to remain independent from Russia. I think I said that before. People have been injured and hurt, lost their homes in this struggle, and it's why our friend Valerie goes there to help. She provides aid and comfort to people who have these rich traditions, strong culture, and pride in their country. So thank you for listening.
Our next song is So of Matthew, and there was an insert. Please look on this side of the insert. We are going to go a little off topic here, except it's not really off topic because I think that, although people in Ukraine are fighting for their democracy, I feel like we are fighting for our democracy here at home. And when we say all are welcome here, we welcome everyone. And one of our representatives, as you all know from the news, has been really mistreated. And so we dedicate this song to her. And I'm not sure what page it is.
I don't know what page it is. 21.
21, page 21. So please.
But I put together a specific set of lyrics for today to help send energy to Zoe in this and the legislature in this struggle. And interestingly enough, this song, The Soul of Matthew, which I wrote for Matthew Shepard in 1998, the first time that I sang it in public was in this sanctuary. So this is a special place for this song, and it feels like we can, we're holding the voice of Zoe. We are holding the soul of Matthew in our own two hands. We are holding the soul of Matthew in our hands. Though injustice surrounds us, may love prevail. We are holding the soul of Matthew in our hands. We are holding the voice of Zoe in our own two hands. We are holding the voice of Zoe in our hands. Though injustice surrounds us, may love prevail. We are holding the voice of Zoe in our hands. And even though it isn't all that poetic to sing these words, it feels like it's important to sing this next verse. We are holding the Montana legislature in our own two hands. We are holding the Montana legislature in our hands. Though injustice surrounds us, may love prevail. We are holding the Montana legislature in our hands. We are holding peace and justice in our own two hands. We are holding peace and justice in our hands. Though injustice surrounds us, may love prevail. We are holding the peace and justice in our hands. We are holding the soul of a nation in our own two hands. We are holding the soul of a nation in our hands. Though injustice surrounds us, may love prevail. We are holding the soul of a nation in our hands.
I think we should show up at the Capitol and sing this.
I'll do it any day.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Ukraine and my latest trip, and I have some slides. I hope that you can all see them. What's that? Yeah, thank you. A month ago, I returned from my third trip to Ukraine with Hands On Global. Our team met up in Budapest, Hungary, 5 of us, We carried 21 50-pound bags of medical supplies. We were quite the scene at the airports. In a large rented utility van, we were driven across the border into Ukraine. We had a Hungarian driver who did not speak English, but just kept saying, Ukraine? Ukraine? Like, yes. We had a minor 2-hour delay explaining to customs at the border. And our first stop was Mukachevo in western Ukraine. Although there were occasional air raid sirens and the presence of soldiers on the streets, it was a safe place in Ukraine and had never had a missile attack.
Okay.
Life looked normal.
I'm sorry, I lost your feed.
Oh, okay. Technology is such a thing, huh?
So much, okay.
Okay, just,
Let's advance it to.
just, yeah, that's good. Okay. So, yep, our first stop was Mukachevo, and life looked pretty normal. A van met us, and we unloaded the bags of trauma supplies that were heading immediately to medics in Bakhmut, the front lines. When we showed them the bag of 100 tourniquets, they turned and asked, "Can we have 500 more?" That was our first hint as to the magnitude of the injuries and the resulting amputations. We were delivering orthopedic equipment to Dr. Yuri Demyan, a pediatric orthopedic surgeon at the Regional Children's Hospital. He is an expert in repairing congenital orthopedic malformations. He is now, we're unloading here. He is now treating many complex orthopedic war wounds of children, civilians, and soldiers. We were told as many as 100 patients arrive, sometimes twice a week, and the hospitals are filled to capacity. He told us how important the external fixators and the orthopedic nails and screws were in saving limbs. He connected us with a prosthetic rehabilitation center nearby called Protez. We spent a day there meeting one of the two brothers, Jakob in Ukraine, and his brother Peter in Minneapolis, and they founded Protez Prosthetics for Ukraine. Simple prosthetics are made in Ukraine, fitted, managed, and accompanied by intense physical therapy. The center in Minneapolis brings 12 soldiers at a time who require more complex or multiple prosthetics. They are fitted, and then they return to the Ukraine for continued physical therapy. I will be going to Protest Foundation in Minnesota in May to greet 12 soldiers on May 19th. Hands on Global really supports this work. We don't know actually what the number of amputees are, but it's well over 18,000. Our team divided up at this point. One of our colleagues, a Vietnam nurse veteran, had her PTSD triggered by the air raids and opted to go to Lviv. Oh, well, I'm a little ahead here.
I'm afraid if I touch it.
It's okay. There I go to. Okay, and opted to go to Lviv, where she worked with displaced pets, of which there are many. And there are thousands of displaced pets just all over Ukraine, and it's a real difficulty feeding and walking them, but they went and gave them some love. So the three of us then headed by 12-hour train to Kyiv to deliver more of the medical supplies. As we exited the train station in Kyiv, our first visual was a bombed-out skyscraper. There were sandbags everywhere, concrete roadblocks, steel hedgehogs designed to stop Russian tanks, and air raid warnings blaring. Yet, people appeared to be going about things normally. We really didn't know what to do. We didn't know whether we did locate air raid shelters to know where they were, but we just kind of followed the normal. The air raid sirens would go off frequently, and people checked their phones, which there was an app in Ukrainian telling you where the missiles appeared to be heading. And so you'd look at your app and know whether you should go to a shelter or not. Those were the hedgehogs. There were signs of war all over Kyiv. We followed the normal. We stayed in a hotel that was located 2 blocks from President Zelensky's office, thinking it would be a safe area. We didn't think they'd bomb him. It had a bomb shelter that were 4 floors below street level. They tried to put us on the 14th floor. We rebelled, said no, we don't want to be that high. We got a room on the 2nd floor. For me, it would have meant going down 18 flights of stairs if there was an air raid. That was not going to be possible. Next to our hotel was a growing memorial to those who died in this invasion. It was very moving. My colleague and I walked up to each one and said their name. It was quite emotional. There were hundreds of them. Then the next corner, oops.
Sorry.
Okay,
Is that the memorial?
no, keep going. That's the air raid app on your phone. You know what, I think I'll just speak and you can just see the slides, okay? Does that work?
That works.
So just put it on automatic. This is in front of our hotel. Okay, so we're close. Okay. We delivered our supplies to the Kyiv Civilian Trauma Hospital, where my friend, Dr. Tanis Journey, worked. We had worked together last year at the IDP, the Internally Displaced Persons Clinic. The surgeons were eagerly awaiting for us because they had a complex surgery on a civilian woman. It was 10 o'clock at night when we finally arrived, and we brought the supplies to the hospital, and they went into surgery at 10:15. We left the hospital. The streets were darkened and quiet as there is a 9 p.m. curfew. Oh, these are the memorials. Okay. The next day, we drove 2 hours southwest to Zhytomyr Oblast. This is where we would work for the next 14 days, and it is here we really met the war. The drive took us past many bombed-out buildings, destroyed bridges, military roadblocks. The road had been full of Russian tanks trying to take Kyiv. Missiles destroyed buildings here. Many lives were lost. The hospital, the Zhytomyr Regional Medical Center, had been hit by a missile and it destroyed the trauma reception area. It was in the process of being rebuilt. Missiles that struck power infrastructure throughout Ukraine affected the hospital's function. Although they had generators, there was a lack of diesel fuel because the military needed a lot of diesel. And at times, it affected the ability to sterilize equipment and prepare it for the next surgery. And the surgeons told of sometimes having to finish the surgery with flashlights. It is here the ambulance driver that we are fundraising for, and his ambulance were hit by a missile and he was killed. The community is short $1,800 for a new ambulance that will be dedicated to this man. My friend, Dr. Vitaly Komenenko, and his superb team of trauma surgeons worked really hard at this hospital. They try to save limbs and restore function. War wounds are devastating. Most of the wounds we saw were artillery wounds. Twice a week, a hospital train arrives from the front lines with wounded civilians and soldiers. The first staging area is near the front line, and that is life-saving, stopping a hemorrhage, restoring airways. Then the injured are moved a little bit further from the front to stage 2, where they are further stabilized, and it is determined where they will be sent. Then they are moved on the hospital train. It arrives in Zhytomyr Oblast early in the morning, about 4 a.m. Many ambulances met the train, and the patients were immediately evaluated. Can this limb be saved? Can it be functional? Is the patient septic? Sepsis, which is an infection, limits procedural options. So you're very limited if you have an infection in treating a bone. Then the surgeries began, a long few days of back-to-back surgeries. And this happens at least twice a week. The equipment we brought was used up very quickly. The patients have a long and painful recovery ahead. There's minimal pain medication available. The injuries are treated with paracetamol, which is similar to Tylenol. I was doing wound care, something I do well. I had never treated artillery wounds before and found myself saying, I don't know what to do here. Extensive wounds, burns, shrapnel, holes. I was out of my league when one of the surgeons came to the bedside and I said, I don't know what to do. He paused and said, either do I. It is very difficult. So many of the patients are civilians brought into the military to defend their country. They are not soldiers by choice, and they lack the intense military skill training. They are often far from home with no family nearby to encourage their healing or to ease their pain. It is difficult for their families to travel due to the war and the tanked economy. One young man I was comforting was wincing in great discomfort. He had both arms injured, one quite severely, and in a complicated external fixator with many wound drains. I peeled an orange for him and fed it to him, and tears just streamed from his eyes. I fought back my own tears. One of our tasks was to evaluate and document the needs of the surgeons and the hospital for Nova Ukraine, a California-based partner NGO. We were given extensive tours of the hospital in between surgeries. The patients' rooms were crowded, normally with 2 beds, now 4 to 5 beds in each room. The operating rooms have 2 tables in each room, and surgeries are simultaneous. The equipment is old, some barely functional. There's a need for new anesthesia machines and updated cautery. Yet these surgeons manage to do very complex surgeries and save lives and limbs. During our time off, which was minimal, we visited a community nonprofit set up to protect Zhytomyr Oblast. It was run by an amazing woman named Zana. She led the charge, uniting the community into action. When the full-scale invasion happened in February 2022, people didn't know what to do. Where was it safe? How to be safe? There was panic as missiles fell on Zhytomyr for weeks. There were Russian tanks and soldiers between them and Kyiv, which was only an hour and a half away. Russian soldiers were firing at citizens. 48 buildings in Zhytomyr Oblast were destroyed. The economy was shut down. Infrastructure was damaged. Food, water, power disrupted. On day 3 of the invasion, Zana met with the city council and the mayor and began strategizing safety measures, locating and establishing makeshift bomb shelters, procuring, rationing, and distributing food and water, identifying vulnerable members of the community. One of the good things is how communities come together in disasters to help each other. Zhytomyr Oblast, a town that had 266,000 people, now had 12,000 internally displaced people from the Eastern Front, where the war was raging. This community foundation, led by Zana, cared for them by providing housing, clothing, and food, and mental health support. It is here, having tea with Zana and her staff, I met and heard some of the personal stories of war's impact. A woman, Hala, was sleeping in bed with her lover when she was awakened by the sound of missiles and explosions. A missile hit and destroyed the apartment across the street that she saw from her window. They panicked, not knowing to stay inside or run away, and to where. My other friend, Oksana's father, was in a nursing home that was hit. He was killed. She buried her father and left immediately in a panic to Poland with her 4-year-old son. She returned 6 months later because being a refugee in Poland was just too hard. 12 million people fled Ukraine, taking refuge in Europe. Others came to relative safety in Western Ukraine as internally displaced people. Many held their ground and stayed, and many had no choice. They didn't have the money, the means, or contacts to leave. Ilyana, an IDP from Kherson, told me of the PTSD her 5-year-old daughter was experiencing. Kherson came under attack, and the family lived in the basement, in the dark, with no power, no running water, and little food. Missiles were falling around their home, and artillery fire was heard for weeks. They were terrified, fearful to go out in search of food and water. Finally, a humanitarian corridor was deemed open and safe, and they fled to Western Ukraine. She told me they went through over 100 Russian military checkpoints. At one, a soldier wanted to take the 5-year-old child's backpack of toys. The little girl said, "No, these are mine." Her mother was terrified, but the soldier let them pass and let her keep her toys. The little girl has her toys now, but rarely plays. She is moody, she has nightmares, and cries whenever her mother is out of sight. Her father has left to fight and is on the Eastern Front. Zana told me of the many soldiers and civilians with blast force head injuries, shell shock, concussions, contusions, and brain swelling. These men and women have varying degrees of brain damage. Some is permanent. They have speech impediments. Some cannot even speak. Injury to the brain from blast force of artillery fire. Will they heal? We don't know. Despite all the ravages of war, there is a return to a somewhat of a normalcy. People are out on the streets, having coffee in restaurants, walking around. There are air raids. People stop, check their app, and continue their day. They know there is a randomness about missile and drone attacks. I asked Zana about this normalcy, and she replied, "It's not reckless or fatalism, it's realism. And if life does not get lived, then the enemy has won. People need to continue living and caring for themselves mentally and spiritually." That said, our last night in Zhytomyr, there was a 5-hour air raid siren. It started about 1 a.m. and went on and on. The power was shut off in our hotel. We knew it was different. 2 missiles hit the city, and we heard the explosions. I can tell you the war became pretty real at that moment. Our team left the next morning, all of us arriving early in the lobby with our bags packed and ready to get out of Dodge. We drove to Kyiv and could not get a train to Budapest. I don't know why. We waited all day to get a train. Could we go to Warsaw, Budapest? How do we get out of here? We'll go to Romania. Finally, we got a train back to Mukachevo, and we knew we could get a ride across the border back into Hungary. On that night train, I awoke in the dark to a stopped train, and air raid sirens could be heard. I had no idea where we were or what to do. Do we stay on the train? Do we get off? I sat there in the dark, my heart racing, wondering what the hell was I doing? I was really scared. The train finally resumed, and here I am, and so grateful to be home. In contemplating more deeply war, and what is this Ukraine-Russia war really about? Ukrainians all say the war began with Crimea, with that occupation, but the full-scale invasion occurred in February 2022. Clearly, undebatably, Russia invaded Ukraine. For 2 centuries, Ukrainians endured violence, poverty, and the tyranny of Tsarist Russia. They had a brief breath of independence after World War I, but were quickly crushed and returned to Russian rule. There was the terrible Holodomor famine under Stalin, then Nazi occupation, and then decades of soul-crushing communist dictatorship. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Ukraine chose to form a democracy despite poverty and seemingly unsurmountable obstacles. This is their democracy, and they are fighting for it. Many have told me they would rather die than live under Russian rule again. They say that it is their democracy and it wasn't perfect, but they were working on it, and it is their right to continue to work on it. War devastates everything. It cripples human souls and bodies, destroys building, and destroys nature. All wars are the same. Is any life or limb really worth losing? It is difficult for me to support a war, and Ukraine is just one of many wars. Currently, there are wars raging in Sudan, Israel, Syria, the list goes on. And with nuclear arsenal activities on the table, war has a higher planetary stake. I am a peace seeker, and so I ask each of us, is change possible? Are we as humans condemned to endless conflicts, oppression, aggression, because this is the way it had always been and will always be? I have learned so much of the history of wars while being in Eastern Europe, in Romania, Hungary, Ukraine. So many monuments and more memorials to the dead, it is sickening. Are we humans really unable to peacefully coexist? I believe in the possibility of change. Change is a constant in human history. We need to collectively choose differently. I believe it comes down to human choices, to a mindset. Work for war or work for peace. In February, I spoke of a Department of Peace that would study and promote peaceful, nonviolent resolutions to all forms of conflict and promote global cooperations. We as humans need to do this. We need to work for peace, really work for peace. The time is now. Our human existence is at stake. Did we catch up? Yes. Okay. So now we have a moment of contemplation, and this is the heart chakra. I think we have just a little bit of time for some comments or discussion.
Does it take a while to warm up? Okay. You left us speechless.
Ukraine, you think?
I think in September.
Right on.
My name is Cass. Valerie, over the years of hearing your reports from whatever front that you are providing relief, almost every story breaks my heart. And I don't know what to do. But because you are active in providing relief, the best that I know how to do is to support you.
Thank you.
So, nonetheless, the grief is big in my heart. So thank you for reporting and keeping us in the loop of certain areas of the earth and reminding me to have gratitude for the easy and blessed life I follow here in Helena, while I know that so many are suffering.
My name is Tawny. I just know that with everything that's going on, it just makes me want to be the best person that I can be, and you know, open my heart and share love and do the right thing. I think that when things get really bad, it forces people to look at things, and there's a lot of chaos in the world, but what I see is fear and like lack of connection, and I think the majority of people are not ill-willed. You know, on the news we see like, you know, the worst case scenarios of things, but I think that there is hope, and things are getting bad, but maybe it will force people to look at things. But it seems so big, but I think it's important that we do what we can, even as insignificant as it seems, maybe, because all of this is just so large. But it just makes me want to be a better person, and that's all.
Well, okay. We can go to our song now, Breathing Peace, led by Judy by Harmony Grissom. And the words are here in your order of service. Stand as you're willing and able.
And we'll sing it several times, so just join in when you feel like it. I will sit, peace, I will hold, peace, I will walk, peace, I will talk, peace, I will think, peace, I will sing, peace, I will live, peace, I will try to breathe peace. Breathing peace. Breathing peace.
know it's time to extinguish the chalice, and all together. Yeah, just one up. Sorry. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you. Now it's the time that we can share our heartfelt joys and concerns.